Happy Tuesday night, everybody. Welcome to our Twitch stream here for fantasy football today. Hey, when you draft sorry about that. I choked right out of the gate. When you draft a team in a PPR league and your two running backs might combine for 50 catches and none of your wide receivers had more than 82 catches last year, what does that make you? That makes you Will Brinson. Welcome, Will, to the show. Good to have you, man.
Can I call you an a-hole in the stream, or is that not acceptable? No, the last time that we talked, or I guess like communicated, was over email, and you called me an a-hole, and I said, "Yeah, everybody knows that."
Yeah,
not breaking news.
Yeah, well, yeah, you can't call me that. That's what I call you. You know, like, come on, have a little respect.
No, I'm just kidding. I love you, Azer. Good to see you, buddy.
It is good to have you back. Will's always one of our best guests, most entertaining, doesn't hold back. Great fantasy mind, host of the Pick Six podcast. We also have
Will Brinson.
Somebody gave me the copy.
Start in the fantasy biz, man. Come on. Got my teeth on these fantasy streets since before you were working at the Palm Beach Post.
Jamie, good evening.
Will and I are on a text chain with one of our coworkers and one of our former coworkers, and the former coworker keeps asking us fantasy advice about a team that he's drafting right now. And then Will chime in. I will correct Will's mistake. And then Will will say, "Oh yeah, I should have done that."
I might be submarining our former coworker's team. He's in an expert league.
That's true.
And it's like, he's like, "Who should I take here?" It's like, well, if you don't know who to take here, you're in the wrong league. Right?
And also Dave Richard is here. I can't hear you guys that well, so I'm plugging in an IFB. So Dave,
yes.
How are you?
I'm chilling, man. I got Russell Wilson in round 7 in this draft. I'm loving life.
Well,
why does it sound like somebody's at a cafeteria?
Probably because they're doing the dishes in the other room.
Well, it's your house?
Probably, I would assume so.
Well, anyway.
Here, you want to see? You want to see what's going on?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, here. Come on.
All right.
I'll show you. Come on.
Hey, welcome everybody on Twitch. Please ask your questions. We're going to go through the first 2 rounds of this draft, and then we're going to break down each team. Oh, it's madness.
Oh, yeah, we're doing dishes right here in the Richard household. We don't mess around. Like an Azer, he just orders food in every night and just throws it away after eating it.
I have a very, very routine, weekly routine of dinner. It is 5 cooked meals, 1 takeout that we use for 2 nights of dinner. I've got it all down to a science.
You're so spontaneous.
Just cooked my ravioli, and as soon as this is over, I get to go eat it. But if you have any questions, you feel free to ask us, twitch.com/FF today. Tell your friends. Thank you for following. Let's go through round 1. Let's see what we got here. Christian McCaffrey. This is PPR with 3 wide receivers and a flex. Christian McCaffrey, Zeke, Barkley, Kamara, Dalvin Cook at 5, Michael Thomas at 6, Clyde Edwards-Helaire 7. And Dave, by the way, had the 2nd pick. He took Zeke. So that brings us to Will at 8. Jamie had the 4th pick. Sorry, he took Kamara. Will's at 8. I had the 12th pick. But Will, you took Joe Mixon. So I'm going to guess you would have taken Clyde Edwards-Helaire if he had been there. And then talk me through what you were thinking with Mixon at 8.
Yeah, I'm going to bring up these draft results. So here's the thing. Right now, as it stands, I don't know that you can take Miles Sanders or Kenyon Drake at 8 because there's too much in question. And I know they're trendy and everybody wants to have them, but Kenyon Drake's in a walking boot, and Miles Sanders, who apparently is going to be fine, is on track to be fine, has a lower body injury. I really think that throughout this process of hyping up Edwards-Helaire, who, yes, I would have taken at 8, and hyping up Kenyon Drake and hyping up Miles Sanders, that the forgotten guy is Joe Mixon. He was a monster down the stretch for the Bengals last year. Their offensive line is going to be improved. They have Joe Burrow, so people can't just focus on Ryan Finley and Andy Dalton and load up in the box. Mixon was going against stacked boxes with a bad offensive line all year. That offense should be substantially better. And Zach Taylor's made some comments throughout this offseason that they sort of learned a lesson late in the season that if they can lean on Joe Mixon, he can be their guy. I don't think it's out of the question that Joe Mixon could be one of the guys who joins the big 4, and I have Dalvin Cook a little bit below Kamara, Barkley, Zeke, and CMC. I think that Joe Mixon could be the guy who makes a leap into the big 5, so to speak, next year. So I'm happy to take a chance on him at 8.
We had 2 interesting reports on Joe Mixon. One was from Tyler Dragon from the Cincinnati Enquirer, who joined us on CBS Sports HQ, and he said the exact same thing Will said in regards to what the Bengals are probably going to do with him. They're going to ride him as much as they can, take the pressure off the rookie. The offense should be better with not just the offensive line improvement, but getting AJ Green back. The fact that he's back at practice tomorrow is a good sign for that offense as a whole. But Jason La Canfora doubled down on it in a big time way. I mean, he said that he could be this year's Christian McCaffrey.
Woo!
Now, he wrote a whole lead to his notebook. I know we talked about it on the podcast, Adam, last week, but he is all in on Mixon having a big season, getting paid, putting up monster numbers. Obviously, the thing that's going to have to happen for Mixon, and I think this is what Will is counting on, and Will, correct me if I'm wrong, is the passing numbers coming up. Now, Tyler Dragon of the Inquirer, again, he said he doesn't expect that to happen in a huge way. But if he can get north of 50 catches or even in the range of 50 catches, as Adam likes to say, 49 catches is the number you need. If you can get in the range of 50 catches, he's going to have a big, big year. So, yeah, I'm with you, Will. I would have taken him in this spot also.
Yeah, I would also just point out really quickly that if you take Mixon from week 9 on through the rest of his season, so you got 8 games in there, that's half a season, 177 carries, 817 yards, 5 rushing touchdowns, 16 receptions on his per 16 game average based on that, 1,634 rushing yards, 354 receiving yards. And I would anticipate that the passing numbers do go up if they're leaning on him more. And because we saw Joe Burrow in they're going to grab concepts from LSU's offense. Joe Burrow used Clyde Edwards-Helaire like crazy.
The rushing, that's the thing. People need to realize he was on pace for 354 carries in those 8 games. Do not use the last 8 games to guess what Joe Mixon is going to do. I promise you he's not going to get 354 carries. But, I mean, your point is – what?
Why?
He's in a contract here. Why not?
Who's getting 354 carries these days? That's ridiculous. Don't question me on that. He's not getting 354 carries.
I don't know. I would know that. I would take the under, but I don't know that for sure.
Know that for sure. As long as you can say anything in fantasy. Nobody's getting 300.
What if it's 320?
I don't think he's getting 320. I mean, that's an enormous number of carries. And if he's getting 320 carries, then he deserves that draft spot. I mean, it's not a bad pick any way you slice it. He's going to be a workhorse.
They got nobody behind him, man.
He's so safe. But I just want people to understand he was on pace for 354 carries. You cannot expect that from a running back. I personally still would have taken Miles Sanders. Seems like he's going to be ready for week 1, and I just think he's going to pop.
Why would Miles Sanders outscore Joe Mixon? I mean, like what
catches? And it's PPR. This is a full PPR league, and I think he'll have 20 more catches.
Are you basing that on how well Miles Sanders played down the stretch last year? Because if so, you're a hypocrite.
No, I'm not, because I don't think he did anything. I don't think he did anything that was unsustainable. I think Mixon's workload was unsustainable.
I mean, I guess the only thing he did that wasn't sustainable in terms of Miles Sanders is he matched the only other guy to have played the same amount of games with 50% of snaps or more for Doug Peterson. Darren Sproles did it 5 times in a season, and Miles Sanders did it 5 times in a season. So, it's only
Sanders
happened
is better.
They're both gonna be.
I'm not disagreeing with that at all. Sanders obviously is a better player than Darren Sproles as a fantasy option. I mean, you could debate as a player yet, but this is the range for all of these guys. That's what you face at the end of the round. And Will has complained several times about picking at the end of rounds and how much
it's a lot easier in PPR because Michael Thomas is going to go before then. And so you're probably, I don't know. You're not seeing as many running backs go, I guess.
Will, does the schedule bother you for Mixon? He's got the 2 games against Baltimore, the 2 games against the Steelers. He's got 1 career touchdown and 1 100-yard game against each of those teams. And he's been playing them twice a year since he came into the league.
No, I mean, I can't get too hung up on schedule before the season, especially in this season where half the Steelers defense might not play the week they play the Bengals. I just think there's too many variables with it. But you'd rather have an easier division.
We haven't gotten to week 1 yet, and 2 significant players in this division are already gone. The Ravens just lost Earl Thomas, and the Browns just lost Delpit. I mean, we haven't even played a game yet, and they're already down 2 guys that they were expected to start. Obviously, the Ravens' loss is huge.
Well, I don't know if Earl Thomas's loss is huge for Mixon, and by the way, one of their games
for the defense.
One of their games,
he's definitely somebody who might be tackling a running back.
Well, look, everything I've read was that he wasn't that good last year. So it is a loss for sure. But I think they can survive it. By the way, one of the games against Baltimore for Mixon is week 17. More picks in this draft. Miles Sanders went right after Joe Mixon, then Devontae Adams, then Patrick Mahomes, the Brian McFadden, which is too early for us, but hey, do what you got to do, BMAC.
So you want
Kenyon
BMAC?
Drake was 12th.
You want BMAC's defense of that?
Sure.
He said that in his opinion, all the elite running backs were gone of the elite guys. Now, he still took Derrick Henry in round 2, Josh Jacobs, Nick Chubb, those guys were round 2 picks. But in his mind, the spot he was picking in, he just didn't feel like there was somebody better than Patrick Mahomes. And I think you're going to see that in more drafts than we expect. It's just the nature of how most casual fantasy players approach taking their team. You're getting the best quarter. And as BMAC said, which I think a lot of us would agree, if you knew right now he was putting up 2018 numbers, he would have gone 5 picks ahead of this.
The round 1 finished with Kenyon Drake, and then I took Julio Jones to start round 2. We did have a question. I got some questions coming in from the audience. Island Broker wants to know where Dave's goatee is, and Next Man Up 312 wants to know why Julio's ADP is round 2. Yeah, he went round 2. Could have been the last pick of round 1 in this one. He went 13th overall. Is Julio Jones a round 1 pick for you guys? And Dave, where's your goatee?
Goatee is sitting right here on my face, just trimmed a little nice and tight. And Julio is like a borderline number 1 first round receiver in PPR. I'd prefer to get him in early round 2. Think of him more as like a top 15 pick instead of a top 10 or 12 pick.
Adam, let me ask you a question, because we did this draft Monday morning, and then the news of Drake came out Monday afternoon. Would you have taken Drake at the spot after knowing what happened?
Absolutely. Now here's the thing about Drake is we don't know. We've never seen him like hold up to a big workload, but this walking boot thing, it's whatever. He seems they have downplayed it so much that I really don't have a problem with it.
Just whatever, a walking boot?
Yeah, honestly, walking boots are whatever. He'll be back next week. I feel very confident about it. And if not that,
we're like 5 days from like Kenyon Drake like having his leg amputated in the hospital. And I was like, whatever.
It's a flesh wound.
Yeah, that's right.
Chase Edmonds, though, I had a chance to take later, and I did not. And that was
who got him?
That was a mistake. I could have taken him in round 10, and I missed out. He's on your team.
By the way, for me on BMAC's move, and I kind of get what he's saying in the sense that like you don't want to be unhappy and take Kenyon Drake if you don't want to take Kenyon Drake there, but bypassing Julio Jones or Tyreek Hill for Mahomes, I think is probably where sort of the disconnect for me is.
Right, and we talked to him on the HQ show on Tuesday. I asked him after you took Kyler in round 7, Dave took Russell Wilson in round 7, I took Deshaun Watson in round 7. Did he have buyer's remorse? And he said, absolutely not. He was perfectly fine with getting Mahomes. And this is something I think that we don't address enough is if you take a quarterback early, right? We've had this conversation about taking Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes in round 3, for us, which is, early in essence. It's when you see the final picture is I think more important than when you take the player in the round. So like BMAC loves his team. We don't love BMAC's team the way BMAC loves his team.
Right.
But his next 3 picks, Derrick Henry, Todd Gurley, Amari Cooper, he did some things a little different than I would have done, taking Emmanuel Sanders as a starter and, Darren Waller is certainly fine at tight end. If he has a better second or third receiver, if he has, a little bit better options on his bench, it would have worked out fine. It's just the fact that he kind of took a little bit different turn for my liking after kind of that Waller pick in round 6, I think it was.
Right. But that's sort of the problem is like, you got to remember to look at the opportunity cost of what you're dealing with. So when he took Patrick Mahomes, and Mahomes is awesome, but you are basically deciding, do you want Patrick Mahomes and Emmanuel Sanders or Julio Jones and Kyler Murray / Russell Wilson?
Matt Ryan.
No,
Matt Ryan.
well,
right.
I don't know about that because he shouldn't have taken Emmanuel Sanders in round 7. He could have done better than that, right? He could have taken Christian Kirk, Sterling Shepard, Brandon Cooks. I mean, that would have been a great pick. But also another thing BMAC could have done, I don't know if we can take a look at BMAC's team. We're going to take a look at all the teams here. If you want to take Patrick Mahomes, 11th overall, right? So he takes Derrick Henry in round 2. I don't think anybody has a problem with that. Gurley in round 3, we probably don't love that. If you go wide receiver there instead, and you take, let's say, Robert Woods, and then you take Amari Cooper, and instead of Todd Gurley and Derrick Henry, you have Todd Gurley, Robert Woods, Amari Cooper, and instead of Tyler Boyd, let's see, who could he have taken at running back? He could have taken DeAndre Swift. right? And I think you go.
Yeah, the final picture looks good.
Robert Woods, DeAndre Swift, to me, is better than Todd Gurley, Tyler Boyd. And then I think the team, Emmanuel Sanders was a reach, but I think the team is probably fine. And he got away with taking Mahomes in round 1 and still built a good team. So I think you can do it. We don't do it, but if you want to do it, I support you out there. But if you can't get excited about anyone at 11th overall, then there should be some people that you're excited about other than Mahomes.
But if Mahomes is anywhere close within the range of what 2018 was, this is a slam dunk.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
And look, I think this gets lost when you're, you guys spend literally every day for 3 months leading up to the season talking about fantasy football values and certain guys that you like. And you're in the industry where ideas that are popular get turned into, and Jamie and I talked about this on the Pick Six podcast on Monday. It's like, there's a lot of groupthink within the context of like maybe Todd Gurley is awesome again in Atlanta. Maybe Mahomes is 2018 Mahomes. And if that happens, BMAC's going to slaughter this league. So to each his own. It's not what I would do and not what a lot of people would do, but maybe it works.
Maybe. All right. Before we get into round 2, a couple things I want to read. First of all, remember, we're going to have our Twitch draft. So the followers, the subscribers who are going to be drafting with us, Kevin Joseph 777, Draft Hustle TV, Jake from State Farm, Closing Rhyme, great one, Imami Burger, Lucas North 1337, or is it 1337? I know I get it wrong every time. Neb 0774 and Kestramel. Thank you so much for being dedicated followers and subscribers, and welcome to the league. We have a draft-a-thon, a 6-hour draft-a-thon on Wednesday, September 2nd, supporting St. Jude. We really want you to be a part of it. Help us with St. Jude, and it's such a great cause. So tune in. The first 2 hours are on HQ, and then we're live on Twitch at 8 p.m. Eastern with tons of special guests. 4 hours on Twitch, September 2nd, Wednesday night. It's a 6-hour fantasy draft-a-thon live on Twitch and HQ. And again, please subscribe. We have cool new Dave Ultimate Warrior emotes. We're looking forward to those coming to the stream. Those who subscribe can see it on the bottom right of our screen. All right, round 2. Let's take a look. Julio Jones, Derrick Henry, Tyreek Hill, Austin Eckler, Nick Chubb to Will, George Kittle, Travis Kelce, Josh Jacobs, Aaron Jones to Jamie, Chris Godwin, and James Conner to Dave, and DeAndre Hopkins. That is the second round of the draft. I'll read the names one more time. Julio Jones, Derrick Henry, Tyreek Hill. Bye, Dave. Austin Eckler, Nick Chubb, George Kittle, Travis Kelce, Josh Jacobs, Aaron Jones, Chris Godwin, James Conner, and DeAndre Hopkins.
What is happening right now?
Dave's going to a new room. All the pots and pans, I guess.
Dave on the run.
Oh, I love that. Do you know, I love that song.
Band on the Run. It's a great song.
Love that song.
Wings is fantastic. I'm glad we finally.
That great of a song.
It's a fantastic song.
Man on the Run.
Band on the Run.
By Wings.
Wings. Yeah. All right. So
that's a good.
I like it. I like it so much. I don't even know what the name of the song actually is. Just completely called it the wrong song.
I got a few questions to fire at you, but first, give me your round 2 reaction, Jamie.
I think it's going to be typical of what we see. It's the, I don't want to use the word leftover running backs, but it's the leftover running backs. The guys that aren't going to catch passes, and Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb. Eckler probably fell a couple spots too far, given what his role should be for the Chargers. The 2 tight ends are going to go. The big surprise was clearly Kittle going ahead of Kelce. Maybe it's a George thing, George Macelli taking George Kittle. And then as we've come to find out, Aaron Jones is going to be firmly entrenched in round 2, but now James Conner, I think, is going to start to creep his way into round 2, as he did here with Dave. And you could debate, did DeAndre Hopkins slip, a couple spots too far, but this is typically the guys you're going to see in the round 2 realm, with maybe another receiver or two, also in the conversation.
Here are some questions from the crew. From JDS 730, can you name the title of Jesse Eisenberg's new Audible original book, soon to be a movie?
I can't, no.
Oh, man.
Wow.
Busted.
I'm Jamie's cousin. That's the name.
The other Eisenberg.
The other Eisenberg. Actually, I'm the third Eisenberg.
That's right. From BD
You're the
White,
first Eisenberg. Come on.
BD White 91, Allen Robinson, DJ Moore, Kenny Galladay, and non-PPR.
Kenny.
Holiday.
DJ Moore.
In non-PPR?
In non-PPR?
Non-PPR.
Wow.
Wow.
From Flimmer My Zimmer, I feel like I shouldn't say that out loud. Is Clyde Edwards-Helaire before Michael Thomas a crazy pick in PPR?
Nope.
But you're making yourself a risk taker by doing that. I think if you want to go the safe route, you don't want to like completely throw your team into the wind here. You can take Michael Thomas and you'll be okay. But I think Edwards-Helaire does have upside to be better than Michael Thomas in full PPR and obviously in half and non-PPR.
Will, who would you take, Clyde Edwards-Helaire or Michael Thomas?
I'm taking Edwards-Helaire 5th if he's there. I've just moved him up to 5th. He's my 5th guy.
From SRBY 114, what's the dynasty value for Damian Williams? Is he worth holding on to?
Yes, he's worth holding on to, depending on how many roster spots you have.
He's not. I disagree completely.
I don't think you can.
I wouldn't cut him. I wouldn't like straight up cut him.
Can you put him on IR? If you can
look, I'm in 2 dynasty leagues where the rosters are over 20 people. If Damian Williams gets cut in either one, I'm picking him up in a second.
That's fair to say, but you're not trading for Damian Williams.
No.
There's a chance he doesn't get another, decent workload in the NFL ever again.
I just finished my free agent draft of my dynasty league. The 32nd man on my roster, Mike Davis, back up to Christian McCaffrey. Oh yeah. The 30 and 31 were Corey Clement and John Hightower. So that if Damian Williams were available in those leagues, I would definitely take him.
I mean, here's the thing with Williams. You can, if he's cut, you can add him and put him, assuming you can put him on IR, and then you can add somebody else. So logistically, it makes a lot of sense to do it. And I mean, we think Edwards-Helaire is going to be great. Maybe something, I don't know, maybe something happens to him. Maybe he gets hurt at the beginning of next year and Williams signs a cheap deal with the Chiefs because he loves Andy Reid. I don't know. I don't think I would get rid of him.
All right, let's take a look at the teams. All right, let's start with the first pick to Chris Towers. He took Christian McCaffrey. Reminder to our viewers out there, this is a 3-receiver league and it's PPR and there's a flex. He has Lamar Jackson, who he took 25th overall. Christian McCaffrey, Raheem Mostert is his second running back. His starting wide receivers are DeAndre Hopkins, Keenan Allen, and CeeDee Lamb. Zach Ertz is his tight end. Preston Williams is his flex. The bench has a lot of upside. Bryce Love, Alexander Madison, Benny Snell. For some reason, he drafted Corey Davis, Rashad Perryman, and Golden Tate. So the starting lineup is Lamar Jackson, Christian McCaffrey, Raheem Mostert, DeAndre Hopkins, Keenan Allen, CeeDee Lamb, Zach Ertz, Preston Williams. Let's grade it. Dave, you want to start? What's your grade?
That's fine. Give it a B.
Jamie?
Yeah, I'd give it a B. I mean, the one question would be Mostert as a starter and Lamb as a starter. But if those guys do what they're potentially capable of doing, then this team should be great. I like Preston Williams as a more of a third receiver. Like I would probably take Preston Williams over CeeDee Lamb at this point. But both those guys are in that number 3 receiver range. It's potential number 1 quarterback, obviously number 1 running back, and 2 good receivers. I don't know if there's a great one though.
I'm gonna give it a C+. I think the nice thing is that you've got a really high floor with CMC and Lamar Jackson with what you built in. And I don't hate getting Hopkins at the back end of the second round, but I'm a little worried. I just feel like Keenan Allen's ceiling is to be capped this season. We don't know exactly what the situation is in San Francisco. I love CeeDee Lamb as much as the next guy, who's the third guy. I had him 3rd overall in this draft class, but he's still competing for targets in a very explosive offense with a lot of weapons. And I just don't know that Preston Williams is a guy I want starting at flex. I think Towers could have created a much more dynamic roster if he hadn't gone quarterback and tight end in the first 5 rounds. And I think the way you get burnt there is if you do that on like at the end or beginning of a round, because you can't read the runs as they're coming because you're at the back end of them. And so I think if you go tight end and quarterback in the first 5 rounds from the 1 spot, even as good as Ertz and Lamar might be, you're leaving yourself very vulnerable at the other positions. I think that's how it ended up.
We have A comment from Redeer1. Hey, Adam, could you just tell Will Brinson that I absolutely love his podcast and listen to it daily? Keep up the good work.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate it,
man. Yeah,
or lady, whoever.
So that's Chris's team. If I were going to make one change on Chris's team, I would have taken Terry McLaurin over Keenan Allen.
Yes.
Probably would have liked it better. All right, Dave had the second pick. Here we go. Dave got Terry McLaurin. Let's see Dave's team. He has Russell Wilson, Ezekiel Elliott, James Conner, Cooper Kupp, Terry McLaurin, Jarvis Landry, Noah Fant at tight end, Ronald Jones at flex, Carson Wentz on the bench with Darrell Henderson, James White, Mecole Hardman, Deshaun Jackson, and Sammy Watkins. So the starting lineup for Dave is Russell Wilson, Russell Wilson, Ezekiel Elliott, James Conner, Kupp, McLaurin, and Landry, Noah Fant, and Ronald Jones. I'm going to go B+. If Chris was a B, this is a B+. I prefer it.
Oh, it's a great team. It's a great team. It's one of Dave's best drafts that I've seen him, put together. Tight end is, clearly something that we'll have to wait and see how that works out for him. But, I think, if Ronald Jones hits, and Dave and I had this conversation. I think taking him around 4 felt a little too soon. But if it ends up playing to the level that obviously Dave expects, and I think we all hope, then we may look back on and say maybe should have taken him around 3. I'm always advocate. I'll always advocate get the guys that you want when you get the opportunity to get them. And the fact that he was able to get these 3 running backs with Cooper Kupp and Terry McLaurin, that's a great draft.
Yeah.
So, go ahead. I want to hear nice things about me.
Well, no, I was gonna say, I would guess, Dave, that you looked at the wide receivers available when you took Ronald Jones and said, okay, if I don't feel comfortable with any of the running backs afterwards. And the next guy taken was like Fournette. So you said, I'm going to take the running back now, and I know I'll get one of Keenan Allen, Terry McLaurin, or T.Y. Hilton.
Well, Chris, one of the things I like to do when I'm picking near the end of a round is take into consideration. Of what that team, or if I'm third, the team in slot 2 or slot 1, what they need. And after the first 3 picks for Chris, he had McCaffrey, Jackson, and DeAndre Hopkins, and I didn't want to give him the chance to get Ronald Jones. And I would have normally probably taken McLaurin over Rojo. It's full PPR. I'd rather get those catches that McLaurin can give. And I ended up getting him anyway in round 5. And it's late round 4 when I'm taking Ronald Jones. So I think we're splitting hairs if we're talking about Rojo. Bad pick in round 4, good pick in round 5. Well, they were really a difference of 3 picks apart, so it doesn't really matter. And as for tight end, I'm always looking to get value at tight end. Didn't really come into play in this draft. So I'm going to start the year streaming Noah Fant. And if he ends up being a great tight end, we know that Pat Shurmur does a good job utilizing the tight ends in his offenses. I'm more than happy to keep him in that spot all year.
The other thing that I think, and we don't probably address this enough, we've done so many drafts with each other. We know what everybody's going to do. So, Dave knows there's like 4 or 5 people that are targeting Ronald Jones. So if he doesn't get him in the spot that he has the opportunity to get him, he's probably not going to get it. I don't know if Chris Towers is one of those guys, but Ben Gretsch is. George Macelli is. I'll take him in round 5 at the right price. Adam takes him in round 5 at the right price. So that comes into play a lot of our drafts. I was having a conversation with Heath today before this draft that I have several of my personal drafts coming up this weekend, and I can't wait to be away from you clowns, where I know that I can get several players that I love at much better prices,
fortunately none of your friends can read your ranking.
No, but like for example, I like Will Fuller a lot. Ben Gretsch likes Will Fuller a lot. We are typically fighting for Will Fuller. Will, you like Will Fuller a lot as well. We are fighting for that particular player. His average draft position is round 8.
Yep.
We are seeing him go in round 5. It should not happen that he goes in round 5. Now, maybe round 6. And again, this could be what Dave was talking about, Ronald Jones end of round 4, beginning of round 5. But I think I can get him in round 7 and be perfectly fine with that. And that's what I would prefer to take Will Fuller, that I don't have to reach for him in round 5 just because I know somebody else is going to be a jerk and take him before I can.
Well, and that goes back to that group think thing where,
yes,
guys get pumped up and their ADP in these sort of drafts get elevated. I'll give Dave a B-. I really like the team. I like it better than Heath's. I just moved it up 1 letter grade.
All right. Somebody asked about Ronald Jones, which running backs were off the board. Right before Jones, Le'Veon Bell, Jonathan Taylor, and David Johnson were taken. Then there was a little bit of a gap after Jones. Then Kareem Hunt was the only Kareem Hunt and Leonard Fournette were the only running backs taken in the following round. So it was a bit of a run before Ronald Jones, and then a bit of a stoppage, I guess, after. Okay,
and I think we're like
third pick.
just I'm sorry, but we're never going to see in the majority of our user drafts Ronald Jones go ahead of Leonard Fournette. There will be some, obviously, but the majority of people are going to take Leonard Fournette over Ronald Jones just based on what the two guys have done in their careers.
Marone Bergson took Saquon Barkley. Let's move on. Marone Bergson took Saquon Barkley third overall. We'll take a look at his team. I just want to tell you, we got a new podcast coming out. Fantasy Football Today in 5. It is a 5-minute version of FFT. This does nothing to change the show that you all listen to, Fantasy Football Today. It's still as scheduled, but we're going to be adding a 5-minute version that's going to come out first thing in the morning, just to give you a quick fix, give you the news and notes that you need to know in case you don't have time to listen to the whole thing. Or if you want to listen to both, that'd be great. So check it out. It's dropping soon. August 31st is going to be the premiere episode.
Who's hosting it?
Me.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Will couldn't get through his
couldn't
intro.
If you did a 5-minute NFL segment, I'd be like talking about like why nachos are better than tacos, and like I'd have to cut it off.
Will couldn't get through his intro in 5 minminutes. Whoa, welcome to the Pick Six podcast. Today's going to be great. We got Jamie Eisenberg here from Fantasy Football Today. Oh, a squirrel. Oh, look at that squirrel above the tree.
Yeah. Find the line, man. Find the line.
I don't think I've ever ordered restaurant nachos that didn't have at least one ingredient that I like hated. You cannot get like a perfect plate of restaurant nachos.
I hard disagree, but okay.
There's just so many ingredients on it. You're bound to hate something. Okay, so Marone, third overall, has Drew Brees, Saquon Barkley, and David Johnson, Chris Godwin, DJ Moore, and T.Y. Hilton, Tyler Higbee, and Cam Akers. Starting lineup is Brees, Barkley, David Johnson, Godwin, Moore, and Hilton, Higbee, Akers. And notable on the bench, Duke Johnson, Marlon Mack, Jared Cook. Julian Edelman. Julian Edelman could be his week 1 flex over Cam Akers.
Yep.
By the way, prediction on this team, at least once this season, Marone logs in on the CBS Sports app and accidentally starts Duke Johnson over David Johnson.
I think I love this team.
I do too. I think it's good.
Marone is one of the most solid fantasy players in multiple sports that I've ever been around, and he rarely makes like mistakes. Like he's the guy that you look at that always is the floor play. Like he's never going to do anything stupid. He takes players at the right spots. He understands like when runs are happening. He's just a very smart fantasy player. And
where did he go to college, Jamie?
He went to a crappy school, but he's smart enough to know that he's smart enough to follow the Gators ranking.
Nah, I mean, look, it's got
and
great
he also
receivers.
Look, he stole Saquon Barkley. Dave gave him a gift. He took Zeke over Barkley, so he kept Barkley at 3.
It's not a steal.
And maybe Cam Akers has the upside that David Johnson doesn't. Cam Akers at some point becomes RB2, and he ends up starting Barkley, Cam Akers, and then at wide receiver he has Godwin, Moore, Hilton, and Edelman. It's a good PPR team. All right, let's go to the fourth team. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I would say about the team too, it does feel like he drafted guys that are sort of left by the wayside when you're doing an experts league or whatever you want to call it. Like David Johnson and T.Y. Hilton are not popular amongst the cognoscenti, the fantasy football cognoscenti, right? And you can get those guys at a value as a result, and they're going to see action. They're going to get touches and targets.
You get T.Y. Hilton as your third receiver, you probably had a pretty good draft.
Right.
Yeah.
Honestly, Higbee right in front of me.
I know nobody drafts this way, but just say I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if Edelman is better than Hilton in PPR.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, we'll still take Hilton ahead of him. Okay. Team 4 sucks. Let's go to team 5. Oh,
it really does.
Jamie's team, Alvin Kamara in round 1. So he's got Deshaun Watson, Aaron Jones and Alvin Kamara, Juju Smith-Schuster, DJ Chark, and Darius Slayton at wide receiver, Mike Gesicki at tight end, and Jonathan Taylor at flex. Devin Singletary could also step in and be a flex. Anthony Miller, N'Keal Harry, Antonio Gibson, Chase Edmonds, Curtis Samuel on the bench. So Singletary is a nice bench piece for sure. So you've got Watson, Kamara and Aaron Jones, Juju, Chark and Slayton, Gesicki. And do you think your week 1 flex is Jonathan Taylor or Devin Singletary? Or a wide receiver?
It's probably going to end up being Singletary, but hopefully it's Taylor.
This is a good team.
If you could do it again, would you draft Terry McLaurin over Jonathan Taylor?
No.
Okay. I'd rather have McLaurin in this league.
Understandable.
This is excellent work, Jamie.
Yeah, I wish I had a better third receiver personally, but Slayton I prefer to have as a fourth in PPR.
Any comments? Grades? I'm going to give this an A-. Dave?
Oh, it has a chance to be an A. There's no question about it. Just all the upside that he's got. I'm a big fan of Chark, as I know Jamie is too. Watson's got great upside. That was an excellent value pick that Jamie had. I'm not the biggest Juju fan, but you got him at a decent value in the draft, and he should pick up a lot of catches. I just don't I don't agree with him being a top 10 PPR wide receiver. I've seen him drafted that way. And Taylor's one we're just going to wait and see on. He's so exciting. He's a unique type of talent in that he's so big and strong and fast. It makes you think about Derrick Henry, and maybe he could be that kind of a guy. But he's also got some fumbling issues from college. Obviously, the inexperience factor could be in play. And he's splitting with two other running backs. But you got him as your flex. So I can't complain about that. And you got Devin Singletary on your bench. You've got running backs for days. Receivers have all kinds of upside. Gesicki has upside at tight end. It's a great team. It's an A team.
I think Jonathan Taylor gets less than 200 carries and bust out and ruins this team. So I will give it a B.
By the way, we have a question that is relevant to Jonathan Taylor because I think the Colts is the answer. From Bad Moon Rising 101, which DST has the most favorable start to a season? The Colts are my pick. They have Jacksonville, Minnesota, Jets, Bears, Browns, Bengals bye. Yeah, they have a great start.
And they have a good defense on top of it.
Yeah. Let me read another question here, then we'll get to the fifth team. From Pat the River Rat, because of COVID, how many IR spots would you go with?
We did how many bench spots you have?
Yeah, we did a salary cap draft today that I'm the commissioner of, and I just made it 5. Just kind of went crazy that way. Everybody's got all kinds of flexibility with COVID list guys. I don't think fantasy managers should be penalized for too many players on the COVID list.
I don't see why you'd even cap it. Like if it's a regular season, if it's a single season league, I mean, how many how many people are taking advantage of it by stashing a ton of IR guys? I mean, I get maybe you put five is plenty, but like this is a weird season. We saw the protocols from the NFL where it sounds like based on what they're doing that teams are going to arrive at the hotel for their away games on Saturday and get tested, which means those test results are probably coming out Sunday morning. So you really need some flexibility in your leagues in the event that a running back, let's say, Jonathan Taylor, just because we're talking about him, is all of a sudden out. I mean, you just have to have that flexibility. So I would say be excessive with them.
Okay, let's go to the fifth pick. Ben Schrager took Dalvin Cook. He's got Josh Allen, Dalvin Cook and Josh Jacobs, Kenny Golladay, Cortland Sutton, and A.J. Green, Austin Hooper at tight end, Mark Ingram at flex, Daniel Jones also on the bench with Malcolm Brown, Brandon Cooks, Jamison Crowder, Blake Jarwin, Debo Samuel. This is the best team so far.
It's good.
Josh Allen, Dalvin Cook, Josh Jacobs, Kenny Golladay, Cortland Sutton, and A.J. Green. Don't love the tight end, Austin Hooper. Mark Ingram at flex. If you don't like Ingram in this format, okay, pivot to Brandon Cooks or Jamison Crowder. If you don't like Hooper, he's got Blake Jarwin. He's got Debo Samuel, Daniel Jones, Malcolm Brown. A+. This is terrific. Does anybody disagree?
I mean, I wouldn't give it an A+, but it's really good.
Yeah.
I would give it an A-. I have this weird feeling about Dalvin Cook that I just don't know. I think that I would rather have Clyde Edwards-Helaire over Dalvin Cook. And I think, I don't know if Ben can chime in, but
Cook was a scary pick, especially given the draft was on Monday after all we saw was a Schefter quote from an ESPN fantasy show. I still went with Cook because his ceiling is RB2, in my opinion. And I don't know a lot about the holdout situation, but I don't think anybody does.
I think if I knew if I were you, like knowing what you know now about what your team is with Jacobs and Golladay, and you get Sutton in the 4th round, I think, or maybe it was Green and Sutton, whatever it was. I think I would rather have the upside of Edwards-Helaire and Casey's offense over Dalvin Cook with the contract issues, knowing that you got Jacobs in the second round and then came back with Golladay?
I've been struggling with it. I honestly have. I have them 5 and 6 in any format. And, it's like you always want to get the guy when he's about to hit as opposed to the one that just hit and may fall back. And, Dalvin Cook's had a hard time staying healthy, as we're well aware. And, if the contract becomes something like, week 1, hey, I'll see you guys week 7,
Yeah. Well, Madison should have been on your team, I think. I mean, you took Hooper in round 10. Madison went in round 11. I think you probably could have done that.
Adam, I got the scoop on what could happen if Dalvin Cook holds out.
Yeah, all right.
So the NFL has something called a 5-day letter. And this is from NFL contract expert Joel Corey, who does work for CBS Sports. The team can send him a letter saying, if you don't report in 5 days, you're done for the season. Now, they don't have to send that letter. If he decides to hold out, they could give him time to, rethink his decision so they can get him back to play. But apparently they could start a clock on 5 days where he's got to report. And if he doesn't report, my assumption is his contract would toll.
But he's
reported. Wouldn't be able to play over the course of the year.
It doesn't really matter. He's reported.
Well, what do you mean? He's reported and then what? But he's not playing.
If he decides I'm not going to play, how does that? I mean, reporting and not reporting is two different things. Like if he says I'm not going to play.
Yeah. At this point, he has already reported,
right.
Which means that if he bails now, that's where the 5-day letter comes into play. Is that they're like, dude, you went AWOL on us. Like we're
right.
you
left the team.
We're putting they'll put you on a list and you'll be hosed. Like
and then he doesn't.
But
get
I don't
paid,
think he's
right?
leaving the team. If he just says, "Hey, pay me or I'm not going to play."
That's like leaving the team. That's you can't just be like,
well, no. If he says I'm showing up for work, but I'm not going to work,
I don't know.
Like, I'm going to hand me the ball. I'm going to fall down on my face.
Right.
No, he doesn't have to suit up, right? He wouldn't even have to suit up.
No, the problem is that the new CBA, which was signed this past offseason, dramatically changed how holdouts work. Now it's like teams can't choose to fine you. It is mandatory that you have to fine you. So Dalvin Cook will get fined if he misses any time. He's already reported. He knows he's banged in this spot, so he's just going to have to play. But I mean, I think are you going to get his best effort? Or is he going to, if he's hurt, is he going to exacerbate how badly he's hurt and force him not to play him? That's the concern.
He could say, my groin hurts. I don't want to play.
Yeah.
And they may say your groin is fine. He said, well, I don't feel right. I'm not playing. Yeah. I mean, he could scheme this however he wants to.
But I think it is. Dave's right in the sense that, yes, the 5-day letter is a thing, but it would be very surprising if Dalvin was like, hey, you know what? This has been fun, but I'm out. I mean, like
right, he has to leave for that to happen.
Exactly.
Or he has to say, I'm not showing up for that to happen.
Right.
He's already shown up.
Yeah.
So what recourse does the team have? If he shows up and then says, I don't feel like playing, I'm sure there's a recourse the team has.
Well, they say we're not going to pay you or we may cut you. I mean, they're obviously not going to cut him because he'd be picked up in a heartbeat. Yeah, but, right. The question becomes is now they look at it and say, okay, that's your stance. Then here's our stance. We're not going to play you at all.
I mean, here's the reality. He can't do that because if the contract ends up getting told, he's going to be paid the same amount next year. He's going to get franchise tagged.
He's got to play 6 games, right?
So you just got to go out there and work with the team to figure out a way to either get you a little more cash or to say, listen, don't run me into the ground here because I'd like to get a contract. He's going to be franchise tagged anyway. So
here's
his
a
agent
little
has
tease.
to know that. He has to know that.
Here's a tease for you. We have Arif Hassan of The Athletic, who covers the Vikings, on CBS Sports HQ on Wednesday. Guess what's the first question I'm going to ask him? What's the deal with Dalvin Cook? We'll have that answer for you tomorrow, noon Eastern.
You're not going to ask about Kyle Rudolph?
That's my second question.
All right, let's go to Team 6. Heath Cummings took Michael Thomas in the first round. He has Cam Newton. Will, I'm very excited to hear your thoughts on this team. Cam Newton, Le'Veon Bell, Kareem Hunt, Michael Thomas, Calvin Ridley, Sterling Shepard, Travis Kelce, David Montgomery, also Tariq Cohen, Ben Roethlisberger, Jerry Jeudy, Brandon Ayuk, Alan Lazard, Laviska Shenault. But his starting lineup right now is Cam, Le'Veon Bell, Kareem Hunt, Michael Thomas, Calvin Ridley, Sterling Shepard, Travis Kelce. And I think he's probably going to start Tariq Cohen over David Montgomery, but a Bears running back. What don't you like about it?
This team in 2017 was awesome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, you're making two big presumptions here. And I think Heath has convinced himself, wrongly in my opinion, that Kareem Hunt is going to end up being the number one running back in Cleveland. Now, if he's right, then it's egg on my face because my second round pick, Nick Chubb, is not going to be utilized.
He does not. I don't think he thinks that. Do you think he thinks that Kareem Hunt is going to be the number one running back?
I think he believes that Kareem Hunt will end the season with the most fantasy points out of running backs in Cleveland, or else he wouldn't be.
I don't think so.
No, he doesn't believe that.
Because he took Kareem Hunt in what, round 5? He just thinks that Kareem Hunt's going to be a really good value.
I don't mind. Look. His number one wide receiver is Michael Thomas. He's a stud. Calvin Ridley, you were making a big presumption that Calvin Ridley takes a huge leap. I understand why everybody is sort of making that assumption. Julio Jones is still there. Like, the idea that Calvin Ridley is going to outperform Julio Jones, to me, which is something people have talked about, is a little out of control. Like, Ridley could take a big leap.
He doesn't think that's going to happen either.
Yeah, well, first off, if you're starting with Calvin Ridley as the second or the biggest problem after taking Michael Thomas, I think that's, like, to me, Calvin Ridley's perfect on this team. I think the thing that's wrong.
Fine wide receiver too.
The thing that's wrong with this team is you start Michael Thomas, Travis Kelce. I think you need to either A, have a better number one running back who you're taking in round 3. I don't know when he took. I'm sorry, round 4 is Le'Veon Bell.
He took Ridley in round 3.
Right, and then Le'Veon in round 4. But I think that the mistake he made is, like, if you're going to go that route, which is not zero RB, but it's, the start of a zero RB. Cam Newton can't be your quarterback. Ben Roethlisberger can't be a quarterback. I think you need to have something better in that spot because he's got a whole quarterback. He's got 2 question marks at running back to whatever degree you want to, look at it. Montgomery, like, the group is fine, but there's just not one lead singer. I think.
Here's my thing: this is not zero RB.
No,
he drafted RB running backs in 4, 5, and 6. So if I'm starting with this team, I don't just commit to zero RB. Like, dive all in, and 4 and 5 rounds 4 and 5, go with some more wide receivers and get a stacked wide receiver group, or like add maybe you add Lamar Jackson or something like you say. I mean, I don't know. I just, something about this team just meh.
So he could have, instead of taking Le'Veon Bell, he could have taken Cortland Sutton, who went right after, Keenan Allen, Terry McLaurin, T.Y. Hilton, DJ Chark, whoever the case may be, as the third receiver. Some guys I think clearly stand out more than others in that group. AJ Green as well. And then if he comes back and goes Kareem Hunt, which is fine if that's your approach, and David Montgomery, I don't know if that's better, but it probably feels a little bit better.
He could have gone with Cortland Sutton and Michael Gallup, or DK Metcalf or Will Fuller, and all of a sudden you are loaded to the gills with wide receivers and a superstar tight end, and then you just start sort of trolling for running backs, like grab Devin Singletary in round, or maybe you'll go Montgomery in round 6 instead of Singletary, Cohen, I guess, whatever. I mean, that's how, if I'm going to go tight end wide receiver like that, I'm going to go all in on zero running back. I'm not going to try and like patch it together with Todd Gurley, Le'Veon Bell, and Kareem Hunt.
And if you're going to go that route, you need to draft a lot of running backs late in the draft. Cohen is his only bench running back. He only has 4 running backs.
Yeah, if Le'Veon Bell, if Adam Gase's offense sucks, which, spoiler, it might. Right. If Kareem Hunt is a backup running back, which, spoiler, he might be, then he's in trouble. If David Montgomery sucks, which, spoiler, he might, then this team is terrible.
Yeah, it's not a good team. All right.
I need more running backs on this team because he's never going to start any of the other receivers on his bench.
Let's see how George Macelli did.
F is the answer. F,
okay.
Just kidding.
George Macelli with the 7th pick to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He has Dak Prescott, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Matt Breida, and Zach Moss are his other running backs. So let's say Matt Breida is a starting running back.
He'll end up being Moss.
Okay.
So
Mike Evans.
Both, one of the flex.
Yeah. Mike Evans, Allen Robinson, and Stephon Diggs.
Great.
George Kittle at tight end. Flex options are Moss, Rager, and Sims. Ooh, I don't like this team very much. Prescott, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Zach Moss, Allen Robinson, Mike Evans, Stephon Diggs, George Kittle, and then Matt Breida or Jalen Rager or Steve Sims at flex. This feels like a C-.
So here's my thing with this team. If instead of George Kittle, he'd gone with Josh Jacobs, and then instead of Zach Moss, he'd taken Tyler Higbee, I think we'd be talking about this team as an A.
Oh yeah.
And I love Kittle, but Breida could be good, but if you had Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Josh Jacobs, those wide receivers, and Tyler Higbee and Dak, I feel like you're cooking with gas.
Yeah, but look, if he needs one of Breida or Moss to be good.
Sure.
Yep.
There's not.
Also he took Kittle ahead of Kelsey. We should note that.
That's the weird thing. Like,
yeah. All right, so we don't love Georgia's team. By the way, a few questions coming in.
I like it.
I like it too. I think it's a B at least, at worst a B.
It's better
because he's only got one real hole in his lineup. It's the number 2 running back. You don't really feel comfortable having a number 2 running back hole, but if you're going to go strong at receiver and tight end and quarterback and still have somebody like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, it's not a bad thing to have a weak spot at your
it's either running back or flex. You don't want to have both Breida and Moss starting. One of those guys as your flex would be fine.
This is the opportunity cost of taking an elite tight end in the second round. And I mean, it's just, if you have Kittle or Kelsey,
it's also taking Dak Prescott in the first 6 rounds too.
Sure. Yeah. If you go quarterback and tight end in the first 5 rounds, you're going to have 1 to 2 holes at one of those wide receiver 3 or running back 2 spots.
Right. And we're saying that, but Breida could be the best running back in Miami and not be terrible. And Moss could be the best running back in Buffalo and be great.
Franchise 305 wants to know who's our favorite Parks and Rec character and why is it Jeremy Jam?
Jam is great.
You just got Jam. Jam is great, but I'm gonna say people are not gonna really dig this, but I'm gonna take Amy Poehler's character. I can't even remember her name.
Leslie Knope.
Leslie Knope.
Remember Leslie Knope's name? Come on.
Yeah. What was the lead character in Seinfeld? I never remember. No, Leslie Knope. She's awesome. Like toward the end, I guess that show got really terrible. But
what? No, I thought it finished great.
Season 7 was so bad. Woo!
The Office finished way worse than Parks and Rec.
I mean,
the answer is Ron Swanson, but that's sort of the obvious answer. Jam is great. I have a crazy crush on Amy Poehler, and Little Sebastian's good too.
And what's your favorite Doritos flavor from Samir McFly? Favorite Doritos flavor?
Cool Ranch.
Original for me.
I don't really eat Doritos.
Okay, moving on to Will's team. Will's up. All right. So Will has Joe Mixon and Nick Chubb. Let me get Will's team up here. At quarterback for Will Brinson, Kyler Murray. There we go. Kyler Murray, Joe Mixon, Nick Chubb, Odell Beckham, Tyler Lockett, Michael Gallup, Evan Ingram. Flex could be Damian Harris. Yeah, Damian Harris. Henry Ruggs. It's a good team. I feel like your flex is not good. But other than that, it's good.
I think your opinion of my team depends on what you think about the Browns. Which I don't know. Maybe people don't like. I'm higher on the Browns than most people. I think Damian Harris is going to end up going in that 8th round by the time we get to the start of the season because of all the buzz out of Patriots training camp. And Henry Ruggs, I think people are sleeping on Henry Ruggs too.
I agree.
How many targets for Ruggs?
I mean, who else is catching the ball there?
I mean, Tyrell Williams going down is a boost for him because now he's never.
I agree.
I think he'll get a lot of carries. Honestly, I think he'll get a lot of end arounds. I think he'll use him in short yardage and let him explode. If you don't like
comparison works, yeah.
If you don't like Odell Beckham and Nick Chubb, then you don't like my team. But I love both of those guys this year, and I'm buying as much as they can. I would have preferred Kenny Galladay in the 3rd round or Juju, but they both go ahead.
So, Will, the best thing that's happened to me so far in a draft this year was when you took Nick Chubb 1 spot ahead of Josh Jacobs, and this was our 2 QB league, and I was so happy to take Jacobs 24th overall, and I think you took Chubb 23rd overall. Why are you going with Chubb over Jacobs?
Well, I think Nick Chubb is a top 3 running back in the league in terms of talent and like the skill set. The Kareem Hunt factor is concerning, but I just don't the Browns aren't going to not use Nick Chubb because they have Kareem Hunt. Like they'll figure out ways to incorporate both of them. Kevin Stefanski's smart. I don't know if Dalvin Cook and Alexander Madison is a direct fair comparison to, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. But we saw his offense leaned on one guy. They were willing to lean on one guy pretty heavily. I think if I knew that I was getting Odell Beckham, I might consider Jacobs over Chubb in that 2nd spot. But I like Chubb. I think Chubb and Beckham are going to be this sort of weird stack where Chubb's ability to run the ball helps set up play action for Odell Beckham. And I think the Browns offense can be really good this year, and I'm willing to buy in at a fairly low price.
The conversation we had with Nathan Zagura, one of our former colleagues who now works for the Browns, on HQ, he said
he's never optimistic about the Browns. By the way.
No, but he was actually very realistic for one of the few times that we've talked to him on air. And look, his job is to be optimistic about the Browns, so give him credit. But he said, don't expect Chubb to be expect Chubb to be more involved in the passing game than he was when Kareem Hunt came back, but expect Kareem Hunt to be more involved in the ground game and not as involved in the passing game as we saw. So expect, we had that report from one of the Browns writers on their site. I forget his name, so I apologize. Suggesting that it could be 15 carries for each of those guys, which would not be great for Nick Chubb. No. But if Nick Chubb is more involved in the passing game and closer to what we saw in the first half of the season before, Hunt was active, then that will help him in this format more. He's a great second-round pick. I mean, there's no way around it. Taking him in round 2 is great. If you like Chubb or Jacobs, however you split that, I would prefer Jacobs also. But, Will, from our conversation on the Pick Six podcast, he is very high on the Browns. And so, if you have an inclination on the team, go get the guys that you like. And you're talking about two very, very good players in Nick Chubb and Odell Beckham.
Let me ask you this. How many games last year did Nick Chubb have where he had more than 20 carries? Anybody know the answer? He played all 16.
4.
I would have said 7.
3. That's
4 plus 3 is 7.
Efficient. That is crazy. In other words, what I'm saying is
terrific.
If he's more involved in the passing game, he doesn't need 30 carries to put up a monster number. That's how good he is.
Yep.
And so I think you can see him get to where he is with 15 to 20 carries and more involvement in the passing game, and you're getting it at a discount.
Yeah. You know who else is great,
though?
offensive
linemen, too.
Josh Jacobs is also great. Okay. Moving on to RJ White's team, 9th pick. Matthew Stafford, Miles Sanders, and Austin Eckler. Adam Thielen, DK Metcalf, Devontae Parker. Hunter Henry, Chris Carson at flex. Okay. Matthew Stafford, Miles Sanders, and Austin Eckler. Adam Thielen, DK Metcalf, Devontae Parker, Hunter Henry, and Chris Carson at flex.
Could be Marvin Jones at flex or Marvin Jones over Devontae Parker too.
He went with a running back with each of his first 3 picks. He had Carson in the 3rd round, and then he took Thielen, Metcalf, Parker with his next 3 picks.
RJ took all the running backs that Heath didn't take.
This is a very interesting thing. I don't love the bench. So, Jordan Howard, Justin Jackson, Sony Michel, Latavius Murray, Justin Jefferson, and Marvin Jones.
He's got 2 starters on his bench. That's hard to, discount. Jordan Howard could be a flex option for sure.
Yeah, and Justin Jefferson, Marvin Jones.
Well, no, Marvin Jones. I mean, that's
running backs
it's a good bench.
That's a great 4th receiver.
It's a pretty good team.
Yeah.
Why is Chris Carson going in the 3rd round?
Why not?
I mean, Joe Fan of NBC Sports Northwest or whatever it is was on Big Six podcast doing like a Seahawks thing. He said, don't even expect anything from Rashad Penny this year. Like almost nothing. Like they're basically going to redshirt him this year. I mean, do we think Carlos Hyde's going to take away?
You're saying he should go in the 2nd round?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I thought you were
it sounded like you're going the other way there. No,
I mean, like in a PPR league, Eckler, Miles Sanders, and Chris Carson, like you've taken the Miles Sanders bust factor, like you've eliminated the possible bust factor for one of those first 2 guys you took.
Sure.
All right, let's go to our next team. Let's go to
draft, by the way.
Ben Gretch's team. Get Dave's opinion here on Ben Gretch's team. So Ben had the 10th pick, and he goes with Jared Goff at quarterback. It's very wide receiver heavy. Jared Goff, J.K. Dobbins, and DeAndre Swift are his starting running backs. A.J. Brown, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, A.J. Brown. Okay, that's the star-studded wide receivers there. Mark Andrews at tight end. Will Fuller at flex. On the bench, does he have other running backs? He has Tevin Coleman, Darrington Evans, Boston Scott, DeAndre Washington, plus T.J. Hawkinson and Christian Kirk. So, again, it's Goff at quarterback. The wide receivers are tremendous. Adams, Hill, A.J. Brown, Will Fuller at flex. Mark Andrews at tight end, but the running backs right now are J.K. Dobbins and DeAndre Swift.
I have it right where he didn't take a running back until round 6, correct?
Yes.
So this is an example of zero RB where he really focused on wide receivers. And this is how Ben really likes to draft is He wants to fill those wide receiver positions with really good talent, guys that people are passing on because they're going after running backs early on. And then he just figures he'll find running backs along the way this year. He took 2 rookies that have great upside. Swift does, Dobbins does, but their paths to getting that workload that you like to see from a fantasy running back, they're blocked. Dobbins way more so than Swift. But he did the smart thing by adding a bunch of running backs to his bench instead of having only 1 or 2. He's got Tevin Coleman who can get numbers. He makes a really compelling case for Boston Scott being a good standalone running back in PPR. He's got Darrington Evans in case something happens to Derrick Henry. He's got DeAndre Washington in case Clyde Edwards-Helaire isn't the every down running back for Kansas City. So he's got some options at running back to begin the year, but he's loaded at wide receiver and tight end, and he's loaded in flex. And I think he just was willing to wait on quarterback. It's not even close to my favorite team, but I get what he's trying to do. And in a PPR league where you're starting 3 receivers and a flex, Ben's banking on those receivers carrying him most weeks, getting something good out of Goff most weeks with a couple of great weeks from Goff, which I don't think is too much to expect, and then just finding running backs. We talked a little bit earlier about Matt Breida being the only hole on somebody's team. Ben kind of took it a little step further by having 2 holes on his team, and maybe you could argue Goff is one as well. He's probably going to have to end up making a trade along the way. And that's how he'll come about getting a good running back and maybe a good quarterback. And that could end up making or breaking his year. So his lineup is certainly a work in progress.
He could have, and I know he hates this player, but he could have, instead of taking Will Fuller in round 5, Leonard Fournette went 2 spots later. So imagine Leonard Fournette and DeAndre Swift. And then instead of taking, well, he would have taken J.K. Dobbins, but he loves Christian Kirk. So just put.
Were you gonna take Will Fuller, Azer, if he was there at the turn when you took Fournette? At the 5
no, I like Marquise Brown slightly better, and I did take Marquise Brown. But if he had taken Marquise Brown, I may have taken Will Fuller.
No, I think he should have gone Fournette and gambled that Fuller comes back to him in 6 because I think he would have been there.
But
I wouldn't have taken. I would have taken Brown. I would not have taken both Brown and Fuller.
If he had taken both backs and just taken Fournette and DeAndre Swift, and then again, whoever you want to put in his flex spot, but I know he likes Christian Kirk a lot. If it's just Christian Kirk, it's a little bit different spin on this team, and the upside's probably not as high because if Will Fuller hits, he's going to be better than Leonard Fournette. But if Fournette is anything close to what he was a year ago, then that's a steal in round 5 as Azer.
I think that I would also say too, I know he loves AJ Brown. I love AJ Brown like almost as much as my son. But I would say that I don't know that. Do you definitely take AJ Brown over like Robert Woods? That's a floor ceiling discussion. No. I'd rather have Cooper or Woods, I think, versus AJ Brown because of the regression I'm expecting from the Titans. The one thing to me that stands out about this draft, this is what Heath should have done. Like do this instead of taking Bell and unlike the middle tier, right? You know what I mean?
Go all out.
Yeah,
all in.
Like all
like George
in.
Did. George did something similar too.
I just love it. As long as we can just come back to trashing Heath's team, that it's all worth it.
Will was so riled up today on HQ when Professor Cummings gave him B-.
I had such a great line to say to Heath that I didn't get to say, so I'm just gonna say it now. Like Heath was talking about all the touches that Le'Veon Bell's gonna get, and I was going to say, I know Heath hates Halloween because he's dead inside, so he must hate gore. But Adam Gase doesn't hate gore. And then I was going to talk about Frank Gore because Heath doesn't seem to count Frank Gore.
I'm so
what the hell was
that? That one for Twitch. Good thing you said that one.
I cut you off on that one.
You would have loved it. It was. I would have delivered it so much better back then. All right, team 11. We've already looked at this team. Brian McFadden, he took Patrick Mahomes in round 1. He has Patrick Mahomes, Derrick Henry, Todd Gurley, Amari Cooper, Tyler Boyd, Emmanuel Sanders, Darren Waller at tight end, Kerryon Johnson at flex. And then I was really pissed when he took the Steelers DST. I was going to take them with the next pick.
You got to see that coming, bro.
I know.
He texted me before the draft. He says, I'm only doing this as long as I get the Steelers DST.
And he took him in round 13 with the second to last pick. For those that don't know,
Brian McFadden, the 2-time Super Bowl champion with the Steelers.
Yes.
So I think we said earlier. By the way,
that team is gonna put up some like 2 to 3 weeks where it just goes nuclear, like 140. Like Henry goes off.
Yeah.
and and Gurley
scores 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, Henry and Mahomes could take you to 100 by themselves.
The Steelers defense with top 100 player Micah Fitzpatrick going for 2 pick sixes. Who would not have Micah Fitzpatrick in their top 100? I wonder.
All right, and now it's time to look at this kind of strangely normal team that I drafted 12th overall. Was the most balanced team that I've drafted so far. Matt Ryan is my quarterback, Kenyon Drake and Melvin Gordon at running back, Julio Jones, Robert Woods, Marquise Brown at wide receiver, Hayden Hurst at tight end, and Leonard Fournette at flex. I also have Paris Campbell, Deontay Johnson, James Washington, Philip Lindsay, and Josh Kelly, and Aaron Rodgers. But my starting lineup is Ryan. Oh, and Aaron Rodgers, one of the greatest players of all time. Matt Ryan, Kenyon Drake, Melvin Gordon, Julio Jones, Robert Woods, Marquise Brown, Hayden Hurst, Leonard Fournette at flex.
Adam, this seems great. It's great. It's great based on that. I'm going to give it an A-. I think it's really, really good. Between Gordon and Fournette, one of those guys can be an RB2 for you for the first half of the year. And then once Gordon, gets shelved, you've got Lindsay. And Fournette, once he gets benched, he'll be on your bench. Or maybe he ends up getting traded. Who the hell knows what happens with him. But the receivers, you've got great, solid performers with Julio and Woods. Hollywood Brown has a chance to be just an amazing starter, crazy high upside no matter who he plays. I think Matt Ryan's got great upside as well because that team should end up passing quite a bit. Your bench is nice. Hayden Hurst could end up being good. A lot of Falcons invest in this team. A lot of the Falcons passing game on your team. And listen, they're going to throw a lot. That's a good team to pick pass catchers from.
The fact that you took Melvin Gordon in round 3, though, is just so disgusting. If he'd gone in round 4, it would have been that much better. But
if he'd gone with Amari Cooper or Robert Woods instead of Gordon, and you didn't know you'd get Fournette coming back.
Took Robert Woods.
I have Woods though.
Who could you have taken then instead?
I could have gone with back-to-back receivers there.
If you'd gone with Cooper instead of Gordon, and you've got Cooper, Julio, Robert Woods, and then Hollywood at flex and Fournette as your RB2, then I think it's an A+ draft. But I mean, you didn't think Fournette was coming back to you.
Right, exactly. And to be honest with you, I'd like to get rid, I'd like to have one of my bench wide receivers, Deontay Johnson or Paris Campbell in particular, emerge as my flex, and then I could just stream like Melvin Gordon, Leonard Fournette, whoever has the best matchup.
Great job. You did a great job.
But it worked out.
One of those guys is going to fall forward for 3 yards for you every week.
Yeah.
The question I asked you though, and you like the way it turned out, and I agree. But we've talked a lot about if you're picking at the back end 10, 11, 12, do you go running back? I thought that's what you were going to do. I was surprised you took Julio actually, but if you had taken Kenyon Drake and Eckler, let's say, I'm assuming that might have been the other guy.
Oh gosh, how long did it take me to draft Julio Jones? 40 out of 60 seconds. I was really thinking about Austin Eckler there. I would say if Miles Sanders had fallen and I could have taken him and Drake, or Mixon and Drake, I would have done it. I think that Drake and Eckler both have some risk. I love them. I think they're great at 12 or 13 overall, but they're a little bit risky for me. Whereas I feel more confident in what I'm getting from Sanders and Mixon. So I didn't want to take 2 running backs, so I felt risky. So I said, all right, I'll take the guy who's probably going to have like close to 100 catches and 1,400 yards or more every year in Julio Jones.
Right, and you mentioned the risk. You did this again. You took Drake before we got the news of his injury, so his risk has been ratcheted up a little bit.
Yeah, but walking boot, no big deal. Let me read a few questions here from Falpin88. I drafted Zeke and Dak in a draft on Sunday. Is it okay to have a quarterback and a running back from the same team?
In Dallas, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wouldn't have a problem with a team that had Dak, Zeke, Amari, Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb. And you can draft just take the Cowboys and go with all the Cowboys. You're going to get 30 real points per game spread out over all those dudes.
Heath tried to do that in our salary cap draft today. He ended up with Cooper and Gallup, and I know he was I saw that he had ended up with both of those guys. I know he was trying to get CeeDee Lamb as well, but it just I don't think he had enough money.
If you had to pick one team based on the ADP, this is going to have to be a podcast topic. Like to pick 4 players from the team.
It's the Cowboys.
Want more of the Fantasy Football Today podcast and nonstop year-round fantasy advice? It's simple. Hit the subscribe button and hang with us all throughout the year.